In the quiet suburban homes across America, a silent battle is raging. It's a fight against an invisible force, an algorithm meticulously designed to capture and hold attention, often with devastating consequences. For parents like Brenda and Kevin Vang, the battle became a tragic reality, a story that now echoes in courtrooms, challenging the very fabric of modern social media. Their son, Mason, was a casualty in a war few even knew was being fought. In 2022, Mason Vang, a bright and promising 16-year-old, died by suicide. His parents believe TikTok's hyper-addictive For You page algorithm was a direct contributing factor. They describe watching their once vibrant son transform, becoming increasingly isolated and depressed, consumed by a digital world that fed him content about self-harm and suicide. Mason's story is not an isolated incident, it represents a growing chorus of grievances against the social media giant. What began as individual tragedies has morphed into a collective legal challenge of unprecedented scale. As of early 2024, over 3,000 lawsuits have been filed against TikTok and its parent company, ByteDance. These cases are not just about privacy or data, they are about the very design of the platform, alleging that TikTok's algorithm intentionally exploits the developing brains of children and adolescents, leading to addiction, mental health issues, and, in the most tragic instances, death. This avalanche of legal action has been consolidated into a multi-district litigation, or MDL, in California. MDLs are complex legal mechanisms designed to streamline pre-trial proceedings when numerous lawsuits share common questions of fact. Here, under the watchful eye of Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers, the individual stories of suffering are converging into a unified front, aiming to hold TikTok accountable for its alleged role in a widespread mental health crisis among young people. At the heart of these lawsuits lies TikTok's signature For You page algorithm. Unlike traditional social media feeds, which often rely on your direct connections, the For You page is an endless stream of algorithmically curated content, tailored to each user's specific interests and behaviors. The plaintiffs argue that this personalized, hyper-optimized feed is not just engaging, it is deliberately designed to be addictive, fostering compulsive use and making it incredibly difficult for young users to disengage. Experts describe the For You page as creating a doom loop, a continuous feedback system where user engagement informs content delivery, which in turn drives further engagement. This cycle is particularly potent for developing adolescent brains, which are more susceptible to rewards and peer validation. The lawsuits claim TikTok employs sophisticated psychological tactics, from intermittent reinforcement to personalized dark patterns, to maximize screen time, often at the expense of mental well-being. The vulnerability of adolescent brains is a central theme in the plaintiffs' arguments. Teenage brains are still undergoing significant development, particularly in areas related to impulse control, emotional regulation, and self-identity. The plaintiffs assert that TikTok's algorithm, with its constant stream of highly personalized content, can exacerbate existing vulnerabilities, pushing impressionable users towards harmful trends, body image issues, and self-destructive behaviors, often without adequate safeguards. The allegations span a wide spectrum of psychological harm. Many plaintiffs describe experiencing severe anxiety and depression, directly linked to their compulsive TikTok use. The constant pressure to perform, to compare oneself to idealized versions of others, and the fear of missing out, all fueled by the algorithm, contribute to a toxic online environment. For some, TikTok became a digital echo chamber magnifying feelings of inadequacy and despair. Beyond general mental health decline, the lawsuits detail more specific and dangerous outcomes. Numerous plaintiffs allege that TikTok's algorithm actively promoted content related to eating disorders, self-harm, and even suicide. Young users searching for support or expressing vulnerability were often met with an influx of triggering videos, effectively trapping them in a cycle of harmful content that normalized or glorified destructive behaviors. This content, often subtle and insidious, sidestepped parental controls and reporting mechanisms. One such tragic case involves Lily-Rose Hermeline, a French teenager. Her parents allege that TikTok's algorithm, despite numerous attempts to set parental controls, repeatedly pushed disturbing content about suicide and self-harm onto her feed. Lily Rose eventually took her own life, and her parents firmly believe TikTok's algorithmic recommendations were a direct and undeniable factor in her tragic passing. Their case adds a crucial international dimension to the growing legal pressure on ByteDance. Another harrowing account comes from the family of Selena Rodriguez, who also died by suicide after allegedly becoming addicted to TikTok. Her parents detail how the app's recommendations led her down a rabbit hole of anxiety-inducing and self-harm-related content. They argue that TikTok had knowledge of the addictive and harmful nature of its platform, yet chose to prioritize engagement and profit over the safety and well-being of its youngest users, ignoring internal warnings and external research. The most severe category of lawsuits are wrongful death claims, like those brought by the Vang, Hermelin, and Rodriguez families. These cases aim to prove that TikTok's algorithmic design and the content it amplified were direct causes of suicide. The legal burden here is significant, requiring plaintiffs to establish a clear causal link between the platform's features and the tragic outcome, moving beyond mere correlation to direct causation in a court of law. TikTok, for its part, vehemently denies these allegations. The company states that user safety and well-being are paramount, and they have implemented numerous features to protect young users. Their defense often centers on the argument that users have agency and choice, and that the platform offers various parental controls, screen time limits, and content filtering options. They also highlight their efforts to remove harmful content and provide mental health resources within the app itself. A major cornerstone of TikTok's legal defense is Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. This federal law provides broad immunity to online platforms for content posted by third-party users. TikTok argues that it is merely a platform, not a publisher, and therefore cannot be held liable for harmful user-generated content, even if its algorithm recommends it. This legal shield has historically protected social media companies from countless lawsuits. However, the plaintiffs in the TikTok MDL are attempting to circumvent or reinterpret Section 230. Their argument hinges on the distinction between third-party content and TikTok's own algorithmic *design star. They contend that the lawsuits are not about the content itself, but about the platform's product design, specifically, the For You page algorithm, which allegedly promotes and curates harmful content in an addictive manner, making it an active participant in creating harm, rather than a passive host. This shift in legal strategy leans heavily on product liability law. Plaintiffs argue that TikTok's algorithm is a defective product, designed in a way that is inherently dangerous, especially to minors, leading to foreseeable harm. They claim TikTok failed to adequately warn users of these risks and failed to implement safer alternative designs. If successful, this approach could set a groundbreaking precedent for holding social media companies responsible for their core technological design. The early stages of the MDL have seen critical rulings from Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers. In November 2023, she allowed most of the wrongful death and injury claims against TikTok to proceed, largely rejecting TikTok's arguments for dismissal based on Section 230. Her decision signaled a willingness to explore the product liability arguments, indicating that the court views the algorithm's design as potentially distinct from mere third-party content, opening a new avenue for legal challenge. Following these rulings, the cases entered a crucial discovery phase. This period allows plaintiffs' attorneys to access internal documents, communications, and data from TikTok and ByteDance. The goal is to uncover evidence that TikTok knew about the harmful effects of its algorithm on young users but chose to continue with its design for commercial gain. This could include internal studies, user research, and executive emails discussing addiction or mental health impacts. If plaintiffs can prove that TikTok had internal knowledge of the harms caused by its algorithm, and still proceeded without adequate changes or warnings, it would significantly strengthen their cases. This is often referred to as knowing disregard or reckless indifference. Evidence of such internal awareness could be a game-changer, shifting the perception of TikTok from a passive platform to an active agent in the alleged mental health crisis. A critical component of these lawsuits involves expert testimony. Psychologists, neuroscientists, and addiction specialists are being called upon to explain the mechanisms of algorithmic addiction and its impact on the adolescent brain. They will present scientific evidence linking specific platform features to mental health declines, eating disorders, and self-harm. This body of scientific research aims to solidify the causal link between TikTok's design and the plaintiff's injuries. To fully grasp the magnitude of this legal challenge, consider the numbers. We are talking about thousands of individual cases, each representing a family's pain, now unified in a single, massive legal proceeding. The MDL involves countless lawyers, endless hours of document review, and the potential for billions of dollars in damages. This is not just a few disgruntled users, it's a broad societal reckoning with the unchecked power of algorithmic technology. The outcome of the TikTok MDL extends far beyond ByteDance. These cases are poised to set critical legal precedents for the entire social media industry. If plaintiffs succeed in proving product liability, it could force platforms to fundamentally redesign their algorithms, prioritize user safety over engagement, and potentially face similar lawsuits for their own addictive features. Companies like Meta, YouTube, and Snapchat are undoubtedly watching these proceedings with bated breath. Successful litigation could also spur a new wave of governmental regulation. Lawmakers across the globe are already grappling with how to address the societal impact of social media. Court rulings against TikTok might provide the legal framework and public momentum needed to enact stricter laws regarding algorithmic transparency, age verification, and data protection for minors, potentially redefining the legal landscape for online platforms entirely. At its core, this legal battle highlights a fundamental tension between technological innovation and corporate responsibility. Social media companies often argue that their platforms foster connection and creativity, driving economic growth and cultural exchange. However, the lawsuits contend that this innovation has come at too high a cost, sacrificing the mental health of an entire generation for the sake of engagement metrics and advertising revenue. Where is the line between innovation and culpability? As of early 2024, the MDL is moving towards a crucial phase, motions for summary judgment. These motions ask the court to rule on certain claims without a full trial, often asserting that there are no material facts in dispute. TikTok is expected to continue arguing for dismissal based on Section 230 and lack of causation. Judge Rogers' decisions on these motions will be pivotal, determining which cases proceed to trial and under what legal theories. While individual trials are a possibility, MDLs of this magnitude often result in settlements. TikTok may choose to offer a global settlement to avoid prolonged, costly, and reputation-damaging trials, especially if discovery unearths damaging internal documents. However, the plaintiffs' resolve to hold TikTok accountable for its design, rather than just pay out damages, could make settlement negotiations complex and protracted. For the families of Mason Vang, Lily Rose Hermeline, Selena Rodriguez, and thousands of others, the path to justice is long and arduous. Their courage in stepping forward, sharing their deepest pain, is what drives this legal movement. They are not just seeking monetary compensation, they are seeking acknowledgement of harm, a change in corporate behavior, and ultimately, a safer digital world for future generations, free from the manipulative grip of unchecked algorithms. The children and adolescents currently navigating TikTok and other social media platforms are the first generation to grow up entirely immersed in an algorithmically driven reality. The outcomes of these lawsuits will determine, in part, the digital legacy we leave for them. Will platforms be forced to become more ethical by design, or will profits continue to dictate the boundaries of responsibility? The decisions made in this MDL will echo for decades. This is not merely a legal battle against one company, it is a reckoning for big tech. For too long, social media giants have operated with relative impunity, shielded by outdated laws and rapid innovation. The TikTok MDL represents a monumental challenge to that status quo, forcing a re-evaluation of how we regulate, hold accountable, and ultimately interact with the powerful digital tools that have become so integral to our daily lives, especially for the young. A central demand from critics and plaintiffs alike is greater transparency from social media companies, particularly regarding their algorithms. Understanding how these powerful systems operate, what data they collect, and how they influence user behavior is crucial for accountability. Without it, the public remains largely blind to the forces shaping their digital experiences, making it difficult to assess risks and advocate for necessary changes. Amidst the legal battles, there's a growing movement advocating for increased parental engagement and digital literacy education. While legal action seeks to change the platforms themselves, empowering parents and children with the knowledge and tools to navigate the digital landscape safely is equally vital. This includes open conversations, setting clear boundaries, and understanding the psychological tactics employed by addictive apps. The very concept of the For You page, TikTok's crown jewel, is now under intense scrutiny. If the lawsuits succeed, companies may be forced to fundamentally alter how their recommendation algorithms function, potentially moving away from hyper-personalized, engagement-maximizing designs towards models that prioritize well-being and diversity of content. This shift could redefine what social truly means in the digital age, foregoing addiction for healthier interaction. Given TikTok's global reach, the legal precedent set in the United States could have ripple effects worldwide. Other countries are closely observing these proceedings, and similar lawsuits or regulatory actions could follow suit internationally. The challenge to Section 230 and the product liability arguments could inspire a global movement to re-evaluate the legal responsibilities of tech giants, shaping the digital landscape for billions of users. Ultimately, behind every legal brief, every court filing, and every corporate defense, there is a profound human cost. The families who have lost loved ones, the teenagers struggling with addiction and mental illness, their stories are the driving force. Their suffering has transformed into a powerful demand for accountability, one that seeks to prevent future tragedies and ensure that the digital tools we create serve humanity, rather than harm it. The road ahead for the TikTok MDL is long and fraught with legal complexities. There will be more motions, more arguments, and potentially, landmark trials. But one thing is clear: the conversation around social media's impact on mental health, particularly for the young, has irrevocably changed. The stakes are higher than ever, not just for TikTok, but for every platform that wields the immense power of algorithmic influence. This isn't just a legal battle, it's a generation's plea for protection, a call for digital platforms to embody a sense of ethical responsibility that matches their pervasive reach. The outcome could redefine corporate liability in the digital age, moving us closer to a world where technological innovation is balanced with genuine care for user well-being, especially for the most vulnerable among us. The echoes of Mason Vang's story, and thousands like his, resonate through the hallowed halls of justice. Their collective voice, amplified by the legal system, demands a fundamental shift. It demands that companies like TikTok recognize their profound impact, that algorithms serve humanity, not the other way around. The world is watching, waiting to see if these 3000+ cases will usher in a new era of accountability for the giants of social media.